gentlemen, coming to you live from the Ministry League Studios in North Georgia, with Jon the Professor Podine, Paul Superman Sperling, and producer Caleb Sampson. This is the Jon and Paul Show live.
Welcome to the Jon and Paul Show, brought to you by the Ministry League, also the Calhoun Church of Christ in Calhoun, Georgia, the Piedmont Road Church of Christ in Marietta, Georgia, and the LJ Church of Christ in LJ, Georgia. Caleb Sampson producing this thing, putting together a great intro. Oh, what a background, what a wonderful thing. Thank you to everyone who tunes in for this show. I am Paul Sperling. With me, as always, is Jon Podine. Today is a special Saturday show, Jon.
Sorry, Paul. I was trying to sit here and watch our show at the same time.
I know you were.
Oh, how are you doing today, Paul?
I'm good.
This is awesome with us having our special. This is a special Saturday show for the Jon and Paul Show. You know, we normally don't do that, but this is a special occasion for what we're celebrating today, or at least remembering today. I guess we shouldn't use the word celebration. That's probably not the right term to use there, but everything is culminating upon this day, Paul.
I saw something yesterday. We'll get into it in a little bit. I don't want to get too far ahead of us on this, but I saw yesterday during a ceremony based on the 20-year anniversary of 911, which is what today's about, first and foremost, in our minds. But the fact that there's a tear that runs down her cheek, but also a smile on her face. It's almost like you're sad because we lost and people that are citizens that didn't even ask to be a part of the situation, but lost their lives. But at the same time, safety resounds, and it's a blessing. Protect ourselves as best we can, and we definitely became reactionary, I guess is a word, but we had to in response to people stepping into on our soul and meaning only to cause harm to our nation and our citizens, and there's no place for that. And so anyway, we'll get more to that in just a few minutes.
Yeah, none whatsoever. And as Paul said, we will be talking a little bit about that here in a minute with a special kind of 9/11 Remembrance show. We'll talk about some football because it's this Saturday. This is kind of our own version of college football live. The home brought to you by Starbucks, double energy. No, I'm just kidding. Not brought to you by that. But we'll be talking about a lot of that here this morning. Fall is in the air, especially if you're here in North Georgia. Don't know what to feel like waking up to 55-degree weather, but it feels great. We are in the throw of things. I hope everybody is doing well. But, Paul, as we kind of get into our show today, we wanted to talk a little bit about what happened 20 years ago. I know a lot of us have a lot of memories about that, about what took place. Where were you on that day?
I was in Huntsville, Alabama. I was the youth minister at what used to be the Memorial Parkway Church of Christ in Huntsville on the Parkway. It is now the Chase Park Church. Had a great experience while working there with that good church. Jason Moon was our preacher, had a great eldership and a really good youth group, and that's where we were. I was walking through the hallways. I came into the secretary's office, and our TV was on, and I was seeing the Twin Towers and smoke coming from them, and just thinking, there's no way that just happened. And the events obviously I saw today, and it was sad. It was something you thought would never happen. You would never think that someone would do something so heinous, so bad, to prove a point. It was, and it did. It changed our world forever.
It did. Every time you go to an airport now, I got to go to the airport next week. you see the effects. It's hard to believe that it has been 20 years since all of that took place. I was in lit class on campus there at Faulkner, and I still remember we got out of class a little bit early, which is fine because it was amazing. Actually, I went to class that day, but then walked out and everybody was running to what's now known as Cafe Sienna there on campus there at Faulkner. It was called the Nest then, and everybody was running in there, and there was this bunch of people who walked in, and I think when I got there, the one tower was still standing, the other one the first one had already fallen, and so it was just like watching. I felt like I was watching a movie, because there's just no way this could have been real. And I know there was a lot of things going through people's mind, wondering what in the world was going on at that point. I think Paul got frozen. Is that what happened? I can't hear you, Caleb. Your mic is muted.
Yeah. Oops.
Paul got frozen there a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully
be having some internet connectivity issues.
Yeah.
I was on campus and just left just before chapel, and
got freed.
Chapel. Yeah. It's pretty crazy. My parents called me and said, "Turn on the TV."
When everything changed. Oh, Paul's back. There you go. This internet, lovely internet that we have around.
Thank you. Thanks to the hotspot.
Oh, is that what you're on now?
That's what's on now.
Well, we got Paul here. We'll it's wonderful dealing with all the technology that we have. But how now you told me something this morning when we were talking about this. I didn't realize that because you had been, everybody knows you're wearing your Navy shirt today. Paul was active Navy, especially during the first Gulf War. I didn't realize you were still in the reserves at that point.
Oh yeah. I was in till 2006. So the whole time I was at Parkway, and I communicated with the elders there that I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm still under contract, and I will be until 2006, mm-hmm. and 2006, and because I got out in 96, and then I had a 10-year reserve stint, so they could have pulled me away at any time, and when that occurred there in 01, the first thing in my mind was, and of course I had me and Stephanie married, no kids, but I thought all my family, and in Huntsville was it's kind of neat because I lived 30 minutes from our parents and everything, and it was really convenient at that time. Daddy actually was sick, he had multiple sclerosis, and so we were there for that purpose as well, and so it was kind of convenient. But then there was a thing where there was a chance I could have gone back, and would have, if they would have called and said, Fireman Sperling, we need you back. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And so the family was aware of it, and it was what we do. And it was kind of, I hate watching reality TV shows and everybody uses the word surreal. Like everybody uses the word surreal. It's like, do you really know what that means? But it was one of those kind of a weird feeling moment when that happened, and it continued to happen through the day. And after it's over with, it's like, well, the reason why it happened in different locations, because there were actually heroes on these planes that would literally sacrifice their life to make sure it didn't happen to the people. Right. And that's the one thing sometimes I think we forget, is that the reason why, we know why it hit the Pentagon, we know why it hit the Twin Towers, but the reason why it ended in a field there in the state of Pennsylvania, that is because someone took it in their hands to make sure it didn't occur to other people as well. So.
Well, Paul, I with you being in Huntsville, you probably had the same thing being in Montgomery. We were all in shock, and I still remember it going down. And I would also remember, though, I didn't realize, this is when I first realized that Montgomery actually was a strategic target under traditional warfare. because of the military college sitting there at Maxwell Air Force Base. And I guess especially with you being in Huntsville, being close to Redstone Arsenal,
NASA.
Yeah, it's everything's right there, and so that kind of made everything come into picture too. But it also realized how we were changing. We're talking about places like Montgomery or Huntsville being a strategic military target. But that's when we began to realize, and we really began to understand that terrorism wasn't your traditional military. This wasn't like a foreign adversary that had a legitimate army coming after you, and that there were certain places that they would go. And so it really showed how everything changed, but it also did something. It caused something to happen in America, Paul, that I wanted us to kind of briefly touch on here for a second, if you don't mind. Is it pulled us all together? We're looking at 20 years removed, and we're so divided. There's so much partisanship in Washington going on, and in our neighborhoods, in our communities. But at that day, everybody was just an American. There wasn't a Republican. There wasn't a Democrat. There was not black. There was not white. There was just we were Americans. And there was a scene, I can't remember if it was that day or it was a couple of days after, when members of Congress, I guess, were on the Capitol steps singing, America the Beautiful or God Bless America and all that. And it really put things in perspective at that point.
Yeah. You're talking about unity of a nation. It's just one of those things that it changed everything. You saw the yellow bows around all the trees and around the columns, and
right.
Bringing attention to prisoners of war and those missing in action, and all the prayer services. I mean, people all across the nation praying. I don't want to draw a downward spiral towards this unity, and as much as I appreciate it. But in a certain way, we're kind of like the Israelites. When things are bad, we really need God. But when
we come together,
and we come together, and when things are going great for us, it's like, where is he at? Where are we at? Where's that relationship at? And I hate to tilt it that direction, but I do appreciate it. I wish that there was a time where we can not lose the life of people and still come together when the capital of our great nation is probably the more split than it's ever been in its history. And it's just one of those things. And you hate for a tragedy to occur, but sometimes it takes a tragedy. You know?
Yeah. And Paul, you brought a good point up that if you look back at history of our country, there's only one other time probably it's been this divided, and that ended in a war between brothers and sisters and cousins and everything from various states. And I hope we don't get back to that. And I hope we're a little more mature and grown from those processes. But I hope we maybe could use a day like today to remember it's time to set some of this partisan stuff aside, and to really come together and be who we are. Yes, you can have different opinions, and you can. There are times when you can agree to disagree, and it's fine. But not stoop to the level that we are, because when you think back to today, I was watching something on National Geographic the other night, and they have all these different episodes, and I had to stop at the first one. There was no way I was going any further. I couldn't handle all of it in one night, but when the plane struck and the people falling out of the towers and jumping out of the towers, because they were like, there's nothing else to do. They had the video of when the firemen were down in, I can't remember which, I think it was Tower 1. They're in there, and then all of a sudden you start hearing thuds coming down, and that was bodies. And it should help you. It should make all of us remember the blessings that we have, that God has blessed us with, and to not take them for granted. Not take it for granted.
Another piece of that too is as much as in the New York Police Department and the New York Fire Department hats and T-shirts ran rampant through our nation after that, to represent, and they were as diligent as they could and as prepared as I guess they could be in that. And I realized lost a lot of them just in the helping. in the pulling people out, and people
Yep.
lost their lives helping. But they weren't the only, and that was I hate that for that great city, and you hear the stories. It's such a great city. They named it twice. So New York, but they weren't the only ones represented there.
Yep.
I think there's probably people from every state in the union, every state in the United States that sent their fire department or a section of it or their police department to that location to help. And it's kind of neat because it kind of goes back to the whole unity thing. It's like when our brother is hurt, we're going to go take care of him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of symbolism that goes with this. And then I think on a weird look, God is showing his power and the symbolism of family, that when someone is hurt, everybody else will come there and we're going to rescue you. We're going to help. We're going to be there. And it's a neat piece, I think, that really helps to push and to encourage that in the church, and everything comes back to that. It has to come back to that because that is the reason by which we're on this earth. And we dealt with tragedy, we dealt with heartache, we dealt with deaths and dying and that physical death. But my goodness, it's so cool to see that when things happen and things occur, that the good guys win because we're going to take care of each other and we're going to be there for one another. And it's just a really, really neat sentiment.
Well, isn't that the kind of the Romans 8:28 thing there? Even out of the tragedy, good came out of it. People came to Christ. Maybe faith finally became something that was important to people. I'm thinking back in Acts after Stephen is stoned, such a tragedy for the church. And then the persecution begins, but then the church begins to spread.
Right.
There's good things that come out of all of it. And I think you're right. It helps us to remind us what's really important. It helps to keep us straight with all of these things. And as I'm sitting here looking 20 years removed from this, and we're not getting into politics today. This is not on the politics show of things. You look at what our brethren, I don't know if you saw the post the other day, some of our brethren in Afghanistan lost their lives because the Taliban went in and took them out of a house church. It was some of our brethren that were over there, and this is still real today. And we need to come together as the body of Christ and pray for these people and pray for each other and come together in unity and understand, especially for us that live here in the United States, just how blessed we truly are.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It brings it all to full circle. It helps us to realize what's truly important. And again, it kind of stinks that it takes something like this to happen to make us really open our eyes. But sometimes, because I will tell you, back in, it was the mid-90s, the schools in North Alabama, when I was up in that area, for some reason, there was between Hartselle High School, I believe Arab High School, and Brewer High School, there was like 4 or 5 teenagers who died in car accidents or swimming accidents, and it was a weird outbreak. It was terrible. It's crazy, and you hate to lose life, but people kind of circle around you for those reasons, and then they see that, and it's just, I'd like for us to have a moment in life when no one has to lose their life on this earth to be able to understand the importance of these priorities, that God is number one, and that nothing is a close number two. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about college football, and we're going to talk about the top 4, and we're going to talk about who we think might be number 1, but who's number 2 is going to be probably a pretty close deal. When it comes to our relationship with God, don't mean to be preaching here, sorry, but when we get into talking about God, there's not a close number 2. There's just not, and we make choices, we make decisions sometimes that are based on the fact that I don't recognize the existence and the appreciation and the love of God Almighty. And so I think that's something we need to keep in our minds all the time and not let tragedy make us suddenly open up and wake up.
And Paul, that's when things do get out of whack, when those priorities get out of whack and God comes off of number 1 and he becomes 2 or 3 or 4 down the list. That's when things, even if they're replaced by what we consider great things, family, jobs, nothing's bad in and of themselves. But when you replace God as number 1 and you take him off the pedestal, then that's when, like we said, the priorities get out of whack. And that's when the path gets diverged and goes into a different path. And for these people, that what took place 20 years ago, people's lives have been forever changed. Yeah. And that's why our relationship with God is even more important every day as we live.
Yeah. So as we sort of close down this, we definitely want to remember this. We want to remember the people that lost their lives, the innocent people who didn't ask for this. And just know that those deaths didn't happen without repercussions. It didn't happen without people helping to unite our nation. It didn't happen without answers being brought and justice being served. And I think that's something that we see, justice of our nation, but also justice of our God. I think he got that. We had an opportunity. God didn't make these things happen, but he did. He was there when it was over, and he was there to help people, and he was there to listen. He was there to bless, and that's definitely a big thing that we do as we kind of move into the next section of our show. I will say this leading into this, and unless you had something else with this, John. Today is the birthday of two famous people. If you are a Tennessee fan or an Alabama fan, that before,
which I am neither,
which John is neither, but before, unfortunately, a terrorist who no longer lives brought down and made 911 something to us. It was actually the birthday of Fred Thompson, big time movie actor and Tennessee senator.
I thought you were about to say Fred Flintstone.
Awesome guy. I was not. Fred Thompson was my wish and desire for president of our great nation, and he never had that opportunity. I know he tried, but it never really occurred. But just as far as integrity and just a good guy, I just I was really sad when he lost his life here on this earth. But today is his birthday, so to you Tennessee folks, there you go. Tennessee gonna get a lot of love today. I'm just gonna let you know that. And then another guy who had a birthday today is the first legendary coach at the University of Alabama. Also coached at Texas A&M in Kentucky, but made his name in Tuscaloosa, and his name is Paul Bear Bryant. Today is also his birthday. So, Paul Tyson, to that young man that I have met and is now the backup to Bryce Young, your great granddad. Happy birthday to him, and hope you have a good day. We know you'll have a win, but anyway, let's move into this next segment, and I'm going to let Podine or Caleb or whoever wants to take us in this next little thing we're going to do.
Yeah, you know what, Paul? You're right. September 11th changed a lot of things for a lot of people. Now we can't even remember those birthdays.
I know.
I still remember it, man, because it messed up. To me, it messed up Florida's best team that they ever had under Spurrier. And going for that national championship, it messed it up by canceling a game. So I'm still. That's why I wanted Osama go. No, I'm just kidding. But all the Tennessee people that are out there, we had a big week last week with college football. Paul, some of us were right in our talk. Yeah, you got your Alabama hat on. There's no rest for the weary going on with everything. We got Big 12 expansion to these big powerhouse teams. The invitations went out to Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU. Oh, that just makes you think the Big 12 is going to be around forever.
Well, they're just going to save the day, aren't they?
Yeah. No, but whatever. We're getting to talk about some other things. Hey, seriously, before we kind of get into today's talk, what surprised you from last week? Well, just come off your mind. We're gonna play Pump the Brakes in just a second. But what was surprise from last week?
My happy surprise, or because the sad surprise is the Pump the Brakes, I think. My happy surprise is going to be also my Pump the Brakes. So I won't get too much into that. I'll go somewhere different. I was kind of surprised that Georgia and Clemson couldn't score a touchdown.
Yeah.
but that's also probably going to be a pump the brakes. I don't know. I guess I'm a little surprised at your announcement just now, which we talked about before the show, of the expansion of the Big 12. I guess they need to cover their bases, and they got some good teams coming in there, the good schools that I think need the notoriety of a Power 5 to be able to have a chance in that. So, so I guess that's about it.
Yeah, I think there were definitely some surprises that you had going on into this game. Going into last week, a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions. Definitely that Georgia Clemson game surprised everyone. We're going to talk about that in a second. The LSU UCLA game, LSU getting manhandled. I could not believe that was taking place. That was there. There was something else. What else really surprised me from last week of college football?
How about
we got some people joining in here?
Oklahoma struggled against Tulane.
Well, and I don't know, and that's we'll talk about that too. I don't know. I don't know how much they struggled. If it was just kind of thing, yeah, absolutely, Paige. It was definitely a surprise, and UCLA. So let's go into all that then, Paul, as we're kind of getting into this, pumping the brakes. Let's jump right into that UGA Clemson. Was it great defense, bad offense? What was it?
It was great defense. It had to be. Georgia was missing some pieces, obviously, but I think it has to be. I mean, Clemson and Georgia, they're both powerhouses that I think would be safe that in most years we'd put them both in the top 4, and maybe close to that, if not there, again this year. So I think it's just two defenses that was just two powerhouses just knocking each other down.
I don't know. And that's where I'm pumping the brakes on UGA's run, because I know they boosted them up to number 2. Not a single offensive touchdown was scored in that game. The only game that can come close in remembrance of this was really two great teams. Remember that LSU Alabama game was like 7-6 or something like that. This was like 10 years ago or something. You know what I remember what I'm talking about. It was. Huh?
I remember.
Yeah. And so I just don't know. Georgia was missing a bunch of pieces, so I don't want to criticize them.
Well, let's hold on. Let's pump the brakes on this for a minute. I think Georgia did deserve to be number 2 because they were number 5. They beat number 3.
Well, I would agree with that. Oklahoma, I still don't think, but I told you last week I didn't think Georgia's offense was going to be all that good.
But you look at everything else, they beat the team. So obviously number
3. They did. Oh, no doubt.
Right. So at least give them 4.
I no doubt. I think you should move them up.
Okay.
Are we ready to crown them? Because I've already heard people, well, Alabama and Georgia are going to play twice this year, SEC championship game, national championship game, and that still may happen. I'm just not sold yet on Georgia, on their offense. Let me ask you this. Is this Clemson's demise? Are they done? Are they done being a powerhouse team now?
I think they are this year.
So that'll be interesting to see.
I mean, look at their schedule. They play the ACC.
Yep.
You're sorry, correct. But it's like the weakest conference in existence. I think they're taking the reins from the Pac-12 on that deal, especially after UCLA beats LSU. And I hate saying that. Sorry, Frodo, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. And I mean, who else are going to play? North Carolina, who lost against Vatech. I mean, Miami, who got embarrassed by Alabama. We'll talk about more of that later.
Ladies and gentlemen, I called.
You did. I didn't think they did with them as well as they did, but they did, and is what it is. But I don't know that Clemson has another game, a marquee game that's going to put them in the top 4. They're number 7.
Florida State.
They're number 7. Well, again, Florida State. I mean, it's another situation. Is Florida State that good, or did Notre Dame
that bad?
I think being there in Tallahassee had a lot to do with it. I think Mackenzie Milton coming in had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, because you watched it
anyway.
Florida State played above their heads, in my opinion, that first half and everything else. But then that second half, they kind of slowed back down. And then McKenzie came in and gave them that extra boost. Look,
Pure
all
adrenaline.
Props to him. Major
Yeah,
props to
sure.
him. I do have some concerns from him if you watch it from a purely football standpoint. Normal quarterback's about 3 to 5 yards behind the quarterback, behind the center. Dude was about 5 to 7, and when he hiked the ball, he was going backwards. I think and I would be too. I'd be scared to death to be out there on that leg. But you got to give him major props for delivering in there. Unbelievable what he did and coming back. That was like movie highlight. That's like Rudy movie highlights.
It was, except taller. That's good.
Except taller, way taller in there.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this. Pump the brakes. Alabama for 2 years in a row has a kicker. What do you say, Paul?
Well, it's about time. That's all I got to say. I will say there is a small group of us who text during games who's been very active over the past couple of weeks, I will say, than ever before. And one of the things specifically, which is funny because Tracy Moore just a neat little comment about Duke and Vanderbilt, but he asked the question in there. He said, is everybody else nervous every time the kicker gets up there? And the answer is yes. I don't care if he was perfect all last year. I don't care that he hit every PAT. I don't care that he kicked every field goal and every point after. I still get nervous every single time. And it kind of goes back to, I guess, the national championship game against Georgia and many other opportunities that we near miss or misses on that. So, yes, we finally have one. And, yes, this is going to be his last year. And then we'll be right back where we were before.
All right. Here's your question coming in for the week from last week then, Paul. Alabama, this team better than any of the recent years' national championship teams coming in?
Ooh, no. Not yet. Bryce Young last week, I was a little worried about what was going to happen there. He literally,
and he just gets a freshman record.
He played Miami.
I know I said that last week, but
I know
you don't want to listen to me.
I know you did. I give you all the props, Professor Podine. You did say that.
One game last week.
I hadn't seen Bryce Young do much, even in mop-up duty the year before. Mac Jones was just racking it up, and he did. And he had the best game of a starter ever, his first start ever, which includes Joe Namath and Mac Jones, which ranked number 2 and 3, and the all-time list there. He broke a lot of records. That's great. My question is, Miami is from the ACC. We said this earlier. I mean, and they did claim the victory. They said that we're going to beat y'all.
Yeah. Did you see the rap?
No.
Oh my goodness. Don't eat the rat poison.
Oh, that. Yeah.
Look.
I'm not.
And I'm not.
We're not there yet. No.
And we'll talk about our 4 here in just a second, top 4 in here, and I'll give you my opinion with it. I just knew, in my opinion, from what I'd seen from Miami of last year, I believe that they were way overranked, that they were way overhyped, and I just didn't think that they had the. I like the coach. I like the quarterback. I just did not think they had the team to do it, and Alabama just showed them what was in there. So there's one more we want to do here with the pump the brakes. Brady that good, Cowboys that bad, and then we're going to get our top 4, Paul.
The answer to that question is yes. I don't know that Brady's ever going to be bad as long as he has anybody to throw the ball to, and they can create any kind of separation. Brady will get the ball to them.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy. I'm not a fan. I didn't like him when he played at Michigan. I didn't like him when he played for the Patriots, and now suddenly I like the quarterback of the Patriots. So it's a Brady thing, I guess. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it, but then he does what he does at Tampa Bay last year, win the Super Bowl. I mean, he's talented. There ain't no doubt about that. He's Hall of Fame bound. He's the best there's ever been in NFL from what we see and the numbers. I mean, I hate it, but it is what it is. The Cowboys. I mean, you because they're known as and have always been known as America's team, there's got to be a piece of every American that kind of on some level wants them to do well because they're the Cowboys.
Wants them to say,
I'm
how
not a
about them
fan.
Cowboys?
I'm not a fan, so it's tough for me to make that comment. I know people that are, so I'm not going to dog them out. They got Amari Cooper, so they got to be okay. They're pretty wise in some of their decisions there. Although Boston Guthrie is destroying me because he had him and other people. But anyway, that's a separate conversation here at church. So I just think it's tough. You've been winning for so long, and then you stop, and then you kind of make mistakes for so long. I just really think is the majority of the fact that Brady is that good, and the Cowboys are still trying to figure out what it takes to win.
I get that. Stephen A. called him, I believe it was Stephen A. called him the goat of goats. And I mean, how do you do it? He's like our age, Paul, and he's still out there throwing the ball around like that in the NFL. That's just not heard of.
What is he, 42?
I think he's 42, 43, 44, something.
Yeah, you're right. He is our age.
Yeah, he is. See, I try to help you out there, buddy. So, question here. Top four. Let's hear your top four going in here. I don't think either one of us disagree with number one. You and I may disagree with how much they're number one with on all this. Alabama, Alabama's going to get another test next week. They have Florida next week. Florida will, if you watch the game, I got to get my local Florida report in here. What are you laughing at me for?
I love how you think that. No, I'm just kidding. They're playing Florida. It's got to be a test. It's got to be a test because it's Florida. But it will be. You're right. I'm sorry.
No, I don't. I think they're going to be a 2-touchdown favorite against Florida.
They're more of a test than Mercer, for sure.
There'll be more of a test than Mercer, and I think there'll be more of a test than Miami.
No, they're going to be tough. They're always – it's a psychological thing and a talent thing.
Defensive, the front seven, I was very impressed for Florida. The quarterback, not at all with that situation. And so by far, and I've told you this, that I think, in my opinion, you have Alabama number one. And I think they're number one by a long shot in there. For me, the next four, and I see Tracy has his four down in there. I don't know. To me, it's anybody about 2 through 10, 2 through 12 could be 2 through 4. I don't know that we have a distinct 2 through 4 right now. Sorry, Georgia. Sorry, Ohio State. Sorry, Oklahoma. I just don't know. In my opinion.
Who's your 2, 3, and 4 then?
I mean, I think you've got to put Georgia up there because they did win the game. You have to put Georgia up in there. But I still have tons of questions about Georgia. Ohio State beat Wisconsin struggle. Oklahoma, the score was definitely not good and having to fight through there at the end. Texas A&M, they puttered along the way. I mean, Notre Dame had that win against Florida State. You know, I don't know. I honestly do not know. The only sure thing I'm sure of right now is Alabama's number one.
Alabama didn't play a full game, first of all.
Which is scary.
They played a half. And the last half, it was basically a tie. So they just stopped. Defense stopped. I've always felt that their defense is susceptible in the latter part of the game. They give up. They let the numbers hit and they stop. And Saban addressed that. He addressed that this past week. So it's there. It doesn't mean that Alabama may not be number one. I wish they weren't right now. I do not want them to be number one. It's not good for them as far as history shows them being number one. But I'm going to kind of go against the tread on your thoughts on who's 2, 3, and 4. You basically list everyone that I put there because of the situation. Ohio State isn't going to be playing very many people. They have a big game today. I think they'll win. That luck is on their side. When people go to the U, I almost said something I shouldn't say, but they lose themselves and they aren't able to win for some reason. But they lose consciousness and they can't function when they go to Columbus. So I got Ohio State in there. Obviously, I have Alabama in the top 4. And I think Oklahoma. I think Tulane, the Green Wave, wearing blue shirts, I think was a first week cupcake. They just looked past. And not that they're playing a big game this week, but they're continuing on. It's a good start. Rattler is a good quarterback, and I think that he's going to make it. I think he may end up being in New York City when this year's over with, along with Daniels at Georgia, which I also put in the top 4. Texas A&M, no way. I think, first of all, they're not going to let 3 SEC teams in the Final Four, but I think there will be 2, and I think it will be Georgia and Alabama. Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio State. That's my top 4.
Really, and I agree with you. I think the schedule, and we say this every year, the schedule allows for certain things to open up. Ohio State, and I do. I think Oklahoma will probably win the Big 12. I don't see Texas doing anything to make a good charge in there. I don't really see anybody else making a big statement against Oklahoma. I do think his first game, they had a big lead, and then it's kind of like the Alabama thing. They just kind of shut down second half and let people come in. I mean, I understand what you're saying as an Alabama fan about the second half, but that game was well over at halftime. And I think that's probably what happened in there. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out. But we got 3 games to talk about here, Paul, for today. The slates are not as deep as it was last week that you have going in. We're going to look
pretty
at
sad Saturday. I'm not gonna lie.
Tennessee, Pitt, Texas, Arkansas, Oregon, OSU. Let's start with Tennessee, Pitt. Let's give our Tennessee people that are up here. See, Tracy, we're already thinking right ahead there. What do you see in this game, Paul? Tennessee, Pitt. We got to give Tennessee. Hey, they won a game. They were 1-0.
They did. They're learning how to win again, especially against teams that aren't very good. But they established themselves. They like how it goes. I know they worked hard. They had to prepare for Pitt. And I think that if this was in Pittsburgh, I think it'd be a different story. But I think because they're at home, and because they have the momentum, and because there's motivation behind the coach, I really think that UT pulls it out. I think it's probably low scoring. I'd go like a 17-10 kind of thing. But I do think Tennessee wins it at home.
I do too. I think Tennessee wins it all. Tennessee needs a win against a Power 5 opponent, and Pitt's going to give them that. Mm-hmm. Pitt's been one of these teams notoriously over the years that you don't really hear much about, but then they'll end up beating somebody. I think Tennessee and Pitt are battling on the same level, and so I think this will be a good challenge for them. Do I think Tennessee is going to finish in the top 3 of the SEC East? No. I think they're going to sit there right at the bottom. Of course, they don't have to worry about it. They got Vanderbilt to handle the bottom for them in the East perfectly, since they just lost to East Tennessee State last weekend. Kristen would jump in here with this. Caleb, I'm going to let you handle Kristen there.
She likes that quote, I guess. You're welcome.
Yeah. Learning how to win. So I do think, I think Tennessee pulls this off. I don't know what to even expect for as a score in that game whatsoever. I guess maybe a 28-21 Tennessee win.
Good. All right. Who you got next?
Next game, Texas, Arkansas. Paul, this is an old Southwestern Conference game.
Definitely it is.
Definitely, Arkansas was not not a fan of Texas and Oklahoma coming in. Them and A&M were against these 2 teams coming into the SEC. What do you think? I mean, you got to give Arkansas some credit. They're looking like Pittman's got them playing some ball coming up there. And this
Oklahoma,
game is in
Texas.
Where's this game at? Texas or Arkansas?
It's in Arkansas. Oh. But getting back to your point you just made, Arkansas don't want them in because it's going to hurt their recruiting chances. Not that they've been real great to begin with, but now with equal billing with CBS and ESPN, it's really going to look bad. I mean, obviously, I got Texas. I'd really have Texas if it was in Austin, but being in Arkansas is going to play hard. They're going to mean it. They're going to hit them hard. But I just think Texas has too much firepower for Arkansas. I like Sark. I like him a lot. I think his only loss this year may be to Oklahoma.
I agree with you. I really, when we discussed this and picked this game, I really, throughout this whole show, I was like, I'm going to go Arkansas. I'm going to go Arkansas. But I think my gut's just telling me you can't. I think you're right. Sark and Texas has talent. I think Pittman's doing an unbelievable job. Because if you've ever been to Fayetteville, Arkansas, Lord knows there's nothing around. Nothing around. And for him to do what he is doing there, I think I give him major props being up there. But I think Texas wins this, and I think it's probably going to be like a 45-21 type game.
And I think
wow.
Sark needs it to be.
So, because if not, this is going to be bad for Texas coming into the SEC, because if Arkansas wins, you can just tell you can't even beat Arkansas, and you're planning to come play with the big boys. It's not going to look good.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely Texas over Arkansas. It's going to be good. The last one, we have Oregon at Ohio State. I just made mention of that. Basically, I already gave my pick with that. I like Oregon. I want Oregon to win. I'm pulling for the Ducks. I'd pull for the Ducks against most anybody except Alabama, probably. I like them a lot. I love the coach, obviously. But going into Columbus, I just don't think they have it. They didn't show enough last week. I was really worried after last week. They should have done better last week with what they did. But, I would definitely give it to Coach Day and his crew. I hate saying it because to me, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and the little brother instead of Alabama. I took them close in the bucket at the bottom, but you got to say it. Ohio State's going to win that game. I'm afraid.
I think you're right. Ohio State going to the Horseshoe is always a place where I've wanted to go. I want to go see Ohio State, Michigan play there because I want to go see them dot the I. Script Ohio. I've always wanted to see that. It's kind of one of those games, like your Alabama Auburns, your Florida State, your USC, Notre Dame. Those are one of those games you just want to go see.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think Ohio State's going to win, but I'm just going to go different just to be different from you, because we've got to sit up here and hope. And I'm going to go out on some hope, and I'm going to say that the Crazy Ducks come to the Big Ten. They come and bring those bright yellow, whatever uniforms they're going to wear today, into the Horseshoe. They're going to pull off the upset. They're going to beat those Buckeyes 27-21, give it to Oregon.
So you are the professor, and I'm going to hope that with all of your vast education, because you have had quite a bit of it, that you are correct, because I want the Ducks to win so bad.
I do too.
What happened last week with our numbers? What was our where are we at? Are we going to keep up with this year? We're going to try to get people to post their
Well, I lost the Clemson game because I picked Clemson.
Okay, there's that one. And then Alabama, Miami, we both won that one. We both
picked Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're up me 3-0. I'm 2-1.
Okay. So let's get our listening audience to drop their thoughts here. After, let's see, obviously you got to do it before the game start today. But I think what we're going to do is try to go through and run the numbers and give out a Minister League T-shirt to somebody if
that would be awesome. Yeah,
if they have more wins than anybody else. But you got to do pick three every week. We're starting it this week. Last week for us will count because it means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
But for everybody else, let's start today. And our show usually will be on a Friday, but today it's on Saturday because of the 911 special. And so give us your pick three on those three games. I mean, honestly, those maybe not Texas, Arkansas, but I don't know. Those are kind of a tight, like those can go either way. I think it depends on where your heart is and where your emotions are and where your allegiance stand. And we're only going to pick the top three games of the week. So sometimes our team may not be there. As you see, neither one of our teams are this week. But John, both our teams, both of them will be there next week.
I'll be in Florida next week. I don't know if we'll have a show next week. I will let you know. I will let you know if
do you think I think it's a slam dunk? Because I do not. I do not think that Alabama is going to run away against Florida. I do not think that.
I'm a diehard Florida fan. And I still think Alabama's is at least there'll be at least 2 touchdown favorites against Florida.
John.
At least.
I don't know how. Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. Me and Tracy are together on this. I'm in good company. Me and the Moore. You know, it's funny.
In fact, I'm going to try to see Tracy. Hey, by the way, I need to tell Tracy Thursday or Friday I may stop by and see you.
Oh, there you go. So tonight, this evening, to watch the Bama Mercer game, I'm actually going to watch it with Alabama fans who are also last name of Moore. So I'm pretty excited about that. Terry and Kathy, shout out. Roll Tide.
I'm about to go home and go watch.
So, yeah.
Get ready for Florida USF.
USF. Oh, me. Well, that's cool. We got a lot of things to do today, a lot of shows to watch, a lot of games to watch. I hope that your team does well, unless for some reason your team happens to be Mercer. Otherwise, we do hope you have a great Saturday and a great Lord's Day tomorrow. A couple things I'd like to end with, and I'll pass it over to John if he has anything. John, you got anything else?
No, I think I'm pretty good. Well, Paul.
Okay, John. So a couple of things here. I want to bring everybody's attention to their Ministry League app. It is brand new. We have redone it. You will have login information for that, and do that so you can save your devotionals on the songbook portion of that. So it's a really neat new thing we've added to that. Thank you to Tyler Brassfield for giving that go that way. Also, the TV app, if you have Apple TV, the logo is now blue and it says Ministry League TV. It's really cool. A lot of new things on that as well. A lot of hard work has gone into that. We're very appreciative for that. Please download that. If you have people who are not using the Ministry League app, please send them the link to it. If you need it, shoot me an email at paul@ministryleague.com and we'll get that to you. Let's spread to the world, because very soon, like it or not, COVID, we are going to be traveling across the world to spread God's word again. And so be a part of this with us to Exposure Youth Camp and other things as well. One thing I'm kind of excited about, and we'll close this out tomorrow morning here at Piedmont Road. I'm going to be preaching, and we're going to be presenting the idea of a new ministry here that we'd like to see spread. It's called the Kind Ministry. That's kids in need. It's an opportunity and a program for special needs children. We've developed a room, dedicated a room, have a family here who donated all the money and everything else. And of course, with the assistance of our elders and everything else, to have a room specified for special needs children. Not a lot of congregations are doing this. We are. In the next coming weeks, we'll show you that room. We'll show you what we do with that. And in addition to that, I'm going to be preaching on the topic of kindness and talking about that and introducing that. Really excited about it. If you are in the Marietta area, would love you to come be a part of that. Bible study 9:30, worship 10:30, and kind of neat about the Kind Ministry. That's what I got. Has a few more commercials I had to mention there, but bad internet at the beginning.
Hey, it's all good. Hey, you can tune into either one of our churches, right, Paul? And you can hear us. You're preaching tomorrow. I'm preaching tomorrow. I'm preaching on seeing when you're blind. And
nice.
There you go.
I wish I had glasses on. I put them on right now. But
I'm going to get my Ray Charles looking glasses up there and preach from them. Like,
that's awesome.
Georgia.
Thanks to Caleb for producing this great show, the great intro, and what we do here. Thank you to everybody else, the family here at the Ministry League, and everybody listening, all of our congregations. Very happy and excited about the support. Kind of love being in North Georgia here, John.
Yeah, let me tell you something, Paul. If you like cooler weather, get ready, because here it comes.
Man, I can't wait. It's so great. Wore a short sleeve shirt to the game last night. Didn't even bother me. It was great. Wow. For Jon Paul, I'm Paul Sperlin. Caleb Sampson produced this show. Thank you so much for watching the Jon and Paul Show. Tune in to us anytime on YouTube and on the website at ministryleague.com, the app Ministry League, everything social media at Ministry League. Thank you for watching. God bless. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.